The Battle of Pinkie was the largest battle fought in East Lothian, perhaps the most spectacular, but certainly the bloodiest. In 1547, an English army of 17,000 men was led here by King Edward VI's regent, the Duke of Somerset. They came to force the Scots to marry their infant queen, Mary Stuart, to the English king. But Mary's own regent, the Earl of Arran, assembled an enormous host of 30,000 Scottish soldiers blocking the road to Edinburgh. They camped on Edmiston Ridge, south of Musselburgh. The English camped at Morrison's Haven and Preston Grange. On the 9th of September, both armies sent their horsemen onto the slopes of Fallside Hill. The English horse suddenly attacked, and a brutal skirmish raged across the hillside, and the Scottish cavalry were utterly routed. The small garrison in Fallside Castle were cut off, later to be burned alive within its walls. It was a disastrous prelude to a disastrous battle. The following morning, 10th of September, the English army advanced from its camp at Preston Grange and headed onto the slopes of Fallside Hill. But they knew that the Scots were unlikely to give up their strong position across the river, and so it was the English who would have to attack. Somerset therefore sent his entire army heading towards the church at Inveresk. The hill there offered a commanding position, and if he could install his artillery there, they would command the Scottish army whilst the English infantry prepared to attack. But it was the Scots army that suddenly went on to the offensive. The Highlanders on its left flank rushed across the old stone bridge here under fire from English naval vessels. They became terrified as well as disordered on the narrow bottleneck. But the rest of the Scottish army pressed across the river. The English heavy cavalry suddenly charged with reckless bravery against the Scottish pikemen, desperate to buy time for the foot soldiers to reach their positions. The Scottish army drove them off, but in the ploughed and boggy ground their cumbersome formations merged into one seething, struggling mass. The English cannon, archers and foot soldiers could not fail to hit such a target. The attack had stalled, and the army disintegrated as casualties mounted. The English counter-attack pursued the Scots along the roads to Edinburgh and Dalkeith. Scottish casualties were massive, perhaps as high as 10,000. Somerset occupied Edinburgh and a state-of-the-art fortress built at Haddington to control East Lothian. The infant queen was sent to France to escape the English army, and the conflict raged for another 3 fruitless years.